The less that you do, the more tired you get. And regular everyday activities become that much more challenging. The good news is this, that you can actually reverse that. They've seen this all the way through 80-year-old plus. And the way that you're able to reverse it is with 2 strength training workouts a week. That's all it took. 2 strength training workouts a week, get in your steps, some cardiovascular exercise, and even some swimming that we're gonna be talking about here today. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Glad you could join me here today on this High Performance Health Thursday show. We could also call it a Throwback Training Thursday because we're gonna be talking about a specific fitness test that you can take at any age to see if you are able to keep up. And what does that mean? Basically, keep up with youthfulness. It doesn't mean that if you're 75 years old that you need to act like you're 25 or 35 years old, but what you want to be able to do is check in every single, what we do is quarter with our body in order to make sure that we're not starting to slide. Because the difficult thing is, as you begin to get older, you need to make sure that you are not losing your metabolism. And a lot of that has to do with your muscle, your strength, and your overall endurance. We're gonna get to all 3 of those specifically today. Here's why it's so important. So you might think of it like, oh, I don't really care about having muscle, I'm not really into building up my body, and that's not what this is about. This is about quality of life. Because what happens is, and this is a lot of my study right now into gerontology and how the human body ages, is that we go through massive amounts of sarcopenia and osteopenia, basically bone loss and muscle loss, once people start to enter their 50s, really and beyond. Now, it definitely happens starting, believe it or not, in the 30s, but it's more gradual. And then we see this fall off as hormones start to decline. We start to see immune health start to decline, more oxidative stress, more inflammation. The body really starts to begin to age at a faster rate, but the whole reason the body's aging at a faster rate is it can no longer maintain equilibrium. And it can no longer maintain equilibrium because we've stopped doing the things that we should be doing in order to be able to achieve homeostasis or equilibrium. So eating the right foods, keeping our body active, getting enough sleep, reducing stress, like the things we always hear about, right? But I think too often, we overlook the importance of physical fitness. And that basically just means our physicality, our body's ability to do work. And as your body's ability is able to do less and less work, you have less and less energy. If you have less and less energy, guess what happens after that? Lower mood, lower libido, lower endurance, lower output in general, right? So you do less. And the less that you do, the more tired you get. And regular everyday activities become that much more challenging, right? You might have already started to experience this, maybe to even a small degree. The good news is this, that you can actually reverse that. They've seen this all the way through 80-year-old plus. And the way that you're able to reverse it is with 2 strength training workouts a week. That's all it took. 2 strength training workouts a week, get in your steps, some cardiovascular exercise, and even some swimming that we're gonna be talking about here today. So what I wanna do is first just say, hey, let's see where you are with this fitness-based test. Now, this is not an easy fitness test, all right? So I just wanna share that with you. But it's a fun way to gauge yourself against some of the fittest people on earth, and then be like, okay, yeah, I can strive for that. I don't need to achieve that, but I can strive for it. That's really interesting. And then people who are already in shape, they can say, all right, let me see if I would qualify. So I always find this fun. I remember this very specifically. I know exactly how old I was. I was about 25 years old, and I was helping an FBI client, and they became an FBI agent. I trained them to pass the fitness qualification test. And it was actually more strenuous, believe it or not, than the test that I'm about to give you. So, I mean, it's pretty remarkable. This was many years ago. This is about 20 years ago. And so what I want to share with you, though, is that, again, if you can strive for something, that's what a lot of what we teach inside of High Performance Health is that every quarter you're doing an assessment on your overall physicality, not because you need to beat anybody else. That is absolutely not what being a high performer is about. It's about you bettering your best. That's really it. Better your best on a quarterly basis. That means you don't need to get better overnight. And we do monthly check-ins, but the monthly check-ins don't matter as much as the quarters because there's ebbs and flows to life. Like not every week is my best week of workouts. This week, like I'll probably give you an update maybe on the Friday review, wasn't my best week. It just wasn't. And there was extenuating circumstances, but I know it was a finite period of time. So this, of course, wouldn't be my best week for testing, but that's why we do it over a quarterly basis. We say, okay, this is what I improved in this quarter. And as we go through, your run time, we'll talk about things like that, or push-ups, you're not looking to take, a minute and a half off your mile time. Like that's not necessarily the goal. The goal is, hey, did you improve by 15 seconds? Okay, great. Like that is how we are looking at it. So I think a lot of the time we, in this Western-based mindset, and don't get me wrong, I have that as well. It's like it's all or nothing, right? So it's like I'm either going all out or it's nothing. And I have a lot of that attitude, and I don't think that it serves me. And I'm not sure that it serves all of us, is that we sometimes need to do things at least to a degree rather than not at all. And so why don't I start with that? I'm going to dive right into the test, and I'll tell you a little bit of the areas that I need to improve in, and maybe it will inspire you like it's inspired me. So this is the Navy SEAL physical screening test. Now, again, before you immediately tune out, I get it. These are Navy SEALs, right? This is the qualification just to get into BUD/S training, right? You've heard of like Navy SEAL qualification, all the trainings, the basic underwater demolition SEALs training. Okay, this is just to be able to even participate in that. So, like I said, this is for the elites. This really is. But I'm telling you right now, when I read through it, I said, you know what? Almost everyone out there could train for this and pass it, probably except for the pull-ups, which we'll talk about in about a year's time. So if you know that most people could train for this and achieve it maybe within a year's time or so, might not be a bad idea to shoot for. Again, just throwing it out there. But again, you don't need to pass this physical screening test. It's something to strive for, and then there is obviously well beyond this. I chose this test very specifically. It's not what we do inside of High Performance Health, but I chose this for you because it's a combination of anaerobic strength, right? So strength training combined with cardiovascular training. Cardiovascular is your aerobic, strength is your anaerobic. They just use two different energy systems of the body. Cardiovascular, you can do for an extended period of time using an oxygen-based system of the body. And then your anaerobic system, I won't get into that. I've talked about that before, but it uses things like sugar and phosphagen and creatine and all sorts of other different processes. And that is used basically when you can't burn oxygen fast enough, essentially, as a fuel source. Again, I've talked about that much more in depth in the science if you're interested on previous shows. But what I'd like to go through first is the strength training and then talk about the cardiovascular. All right, the strength training is very straightforward. It's the number of push-ups you can do in 2 minutes. You can take breaks if you need to, take as many as you need, but how many push-ups can you do in 2 minutes, okay? So it's not the number of straight push-ups, but how many can you do in 120 seconds? So all you're gonna do is set a stopwatch timer on your phone, set the timer for 2 minutes and do as many push-ups as you can. Now, again, you can do this, don't hurt yourself, of course, stop before you fall flat on your face on the floor, but how many can you do? Like I do this with my daughters, and I know that my oldest daughter right now, she can do 10 push-ups. Great, she's 10 years old, she can do 10 push-ups. We like that number for her. It's fantastic, right? And so it's just something to strive for. And so what is a nice thing is you say, okay, how many push-ups can you do? And push-ups are something that can be trained. Like you can get better and better. All right, so what's the Navy SEAL standard? Like what's their standard? 50 repetitions. So when you look at that, okay, it's 25 reps per minute. I think that's a good way to look at it. Now, keep in mind, your first minute, you're going to be able to do way more than your second minute, even with rest, because there's an anaerobic threshold where your body is just building up with lactic acid, your muscles are fatiguing, you can't recover as quickly. Not within a minute, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, yes, but not within that minute. So what I obviously recommend is don't go all the way to failure, but do as many as you can, right? Maybe it's 15. Okay, again, it might be 5, it could be 2, I don't know what it is, right? But you're gonna start somewhere, and then you're gonna just try to get as many as you can in within that 2 minutes. And then you just write down your number. Again, you don't have to be a Navy SEAL, but what we wanna do is say, what is your standard? And why push-ups? Well, here's the thing, they're just picking basic tests. Inside of HPH, which just is High Performance Health, we have other standards, excuse me. We have the squat, we have the deadlift, we have things that matter as well for strength, but they're looking at strictly what can you do with the human body, right? No other weights attached. So push-ups is a really good pushing-based exercise to see how strong that movement is with your upper body. So it's really upper body strength. Okay. Now sit-ups is the number of reps, so all the way down to the floor, all the way up. How many can you do in 2 minutes? And the standard is 50. Now, here's the interesting thing. When I was working with the FBI agent, who was a female, the standard was also 50. That was the minimum, but it had to be done in 1 minute. So here's the I thought to me that was very impressive. But also, I'll get to that in just a moment with the pull-ups. So we'll get to that in just 1 minute. So how many sit-ups can you do in 2 minutes? I think that everyone would be able to hit this number for the most part with 12 weeks of training. I really believe that, like maximum. So I think you can knock that one out. You have to be careful. You want to train your lower back, your glutes. You don't want to just train sit-ups because you can end up pulling something. You make your psoas, hip flexor muscles very tight. But again, having said that, I think that you can. And what is this testing for the Navy SEALs? Well, it's testing abdominal strength as well. It's testing hip flexor strength. It's testing a lot of things when you do a full sit-up. It's not just a crunch, it's a full sit-up. But these things are also testing what's called muscular endurance. So 50 is a lot of repetitions, right? That goes well beyond how many can you do in under 30 seconds, which is like a true neurological or anaerobic threshold. You don't need to know what all that means, but that's like true strength. This is more muscular endurance. How much can you power through? All right, so sit-ups is also 50. And now pull-ups, there is no maximum time. So it's not 2 minutes like the others. It's no maximum time. Can you get to 10 pull-ups? Really interesting, right? So 10 total pull-ups is what you need to be able to do. This is a challenging one. I'll tell you this right now, because men typically do have more upper body muscle, therefore upper body strength, than women. When you look at this, and I've trained I've overseen tens of thousands of fitness-based appointments. I've trained tens of thousands, but not tens of thousands of people because I've worked with the same people multiple times. And across the board, I can't say that because some women that I've trained absolutely could do 10, 15 pull-ups, but it is more challenging. So with the FBI test, I can tell you this for sure, they did it by rating. So you got points based on the number of pull-ups you could do. So with women, they wanted to do at least 2 to 3 pull-ups. And we have that as one of our standards for high performance health. We like to get 2. Like that's the goal. And you don't have to hit that. You don't even have to hit that within the next 3 months or 4 months. It's like, can you work up to that? And that's a really great thing. So minimum standard, 10 pull-ups. If you have not trained pull-ups, most people, like less than 1 out of 100, can hang onto a bar and do full pull-ups 10 times. So what is that testing? Well, that's testing your pull ability for upper body. Push-ups is your push ability for upper body. There's only one other thing you can do with your upper body, and that's pull. We're not going to count rotations right now, although you could consider that maybe for sit-ups. So those are all strength-based, right? Now, again, I'm not telling you need to qualify, but what I am saying is, what does your strength look like for your upper body? Can you even do, can you do 5 push-ups? Because if you can't, it's okay, but it's a signal then we need to start working on some strength training because it's not going to get better on its own. It's only going to decline. That's unfortunately how aging works. Same with sit-ups, same with pull-ups. Okay, let's get to the cardiovascular. Interesting one is this, swimming. It's a 500-yard swim or about 450 meters. Now, you can do it in any stroke that you want, but the minimum standard is 12 minutes and 30 seconds. That's about a quarter of a mile swim. I can tell you as someone who's done sprint triathlons, who's done quarter mile and half mile swims, and used to train for just the half mile, that is doable. Like I'm not an elite swimmer by any stretch of the imagination, and my time was below 8 minutes. I don't know, it was probably somewhere around 6 minutes maybe. And I'm not an elite swimmer in that quarter mile, like by any stretch of the imagination. So this is absolutely doable. The problem is this, if you're not training it, it is a very specific way that you work your body. So even though it's aerobic, because there's no way you'd be able to maintain anaerobic-based threshold work for 12 minutes, like that's not going to happen, you do use your full body. You use all of those muscles, and it can be exhausting. And so you actually have to be strong to be able to be a good swimmer. And so what I would say is this, it's a little bit of a combination. It's a bit of a hybrid between that anaerobic strength and the aerobic strength. It's not pure aerobic, it's not pure anaerobic. Typically the heart rate's up a bit more. But anyway, what I want to say is this, I don't think right now I would be able to do 450 meters without holding onto the wall. Now they allow you to, in the Navy SEAL test, to tread water if you need to and then keep going. But what I'd look at it as, can I swim a quarter mile, with no assistance? I could, but it wouldn't be fluid. It just wouldn't be. Like I'd probably have to brake, I'd probably have to tread water, or I'd probably have to just do side stroke or maybe like breaststroke for a period of time. It wouldn't be pretty, we'll put it that way. Now, you get back in a pool though, and within 4 weeks or so, honestly, you'd be able to do that. Now, why do I say that? Again, because I don't think I'm an elite athlete by any stretch of the imagination. But the thing is, you train it. Like that's what I'm trying to share with you. If within 4 weeks you could get to this by maybe twice a week swimming, that is a great thing, because think about it. You couldn't do it 4 weeks ago, now you can. You're in much better shape. You're much more well-rounded. And that's why I'm sharing this with you, because I'm gonna get to the last one as well, which is the 1.5 mile timed run. So you are running for 1.5 miles. Now you can walk as well, but you won't meet the minimum standard, which is 10 minutes and 30 seconds. All right, so what's a 10-minute and 30-second 1.5 miles? It's a 7-minute mile, all right? So most people out there are not gonna run a 7-minute mile. Now, if they could just go all out for 1 mile, could they do it in 7 minutes? Maybe. Most people couldn't, like less than 1 out of 100, for sure. Could they do it in 1.5 miles? No. Once you start going beyond that, like you're really running for 10 minutes, 10 minutes and 30 seconds at a 7-minute clip, that takes training. So when I look at that again, when I look at my own training regimen and I look at this, I say, I could do the push-ups, no problem. I could do the sit-ups, no problem. I could do the pull-ups, no problem. And then I'm like looking for more strength training, because that's where more of my, to be honest, interest is. It's where more, what do I enjoy doing? But what am I allowing now to fall behind? The cardiovascular. I'm allowing my swim shape to fall behind. I'm allowing my run to go behind. And so when I look at this, I say, that's really interesting. I'm too dominant in one area and too weak in another area. Because we kind of always think of strength as, that's most dominant. But we forget that cardiovascular health is such an enormous part to the overall aging and health-based equation, as much as strength training, if not more, because it can help with all the major cardiovascular issues. And I think that when I look at things like this, it inspires me to say, you know what? Yeah, I have been going too much in one direction. Part of it is I just got a new home gym. I love being able to work out with the equipment. It's my first time having a big home gym and really enjoying it. So there's nothing wrong with that. But now that I've had it for, let's say, about 3 months, 4 months, it's time to really start doing a little bit more of that cardiovascular work. So what I ask you is this, give yourself an assessment, whatever assessment you want, and just say, what does your run time look like? Could you run 1 mile? I think it's important, I really do. And I'll end with this. I think it's important that people can run just for a mile. Like we should be able to save ourselves, right, as humans if we ever needed to run a mile. So I look at this as like, yes, standards, but also what do we need to do in order to keep our bodies strong and healthy for a lifetime so we don't start to fall behind and really feel the effects of aging. So hopefully this was helpful. I'd love to be able to hear how you would do on this assessment, on this physical screening test. Leave your comments in the comments below, and I will absolutely be sure to get back to you, read those myself. And of course, if you want to check out more about high performance health, just head on over to highperformancehealth.org, and I'll talk with you on tomorrow's show. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.